Okay. And actually ignore this part because I changed the assignment. Okay, so we're going to build on that tiny house SketchUp file that you had before, so you can just go ahead and open that one. It might still be on your File Explorer, but if it's not, you should have uploaded it to your Google Drive, so then you can just download it from your Google Drive and open it that way. And then let's go ahead and just do a file save as so that we don't accidentally save over our exercise 6. So I have my exercise 6 opened here. Just turn everything on real quick. Get rid of that too. Okay, so then I will just file, save as, and just change it to our exercise 8 so that we don't accidentally mess up our exercise 6. And then I have a PDF here that is going to tell you door and window sizes and exactly where they should go. So I'm going to open that up real quick. And so what you'll see is just 3 very crudely drawn elevations, pardon how schematic they are. But they will give you the dimensions and basically the location that we're going to make each of our openings, and then we'll be able to model windows inside of that. So we have the front elevation, the back elevation, and then the side elevation. So for our purposes, I am thinking that this one is the front elevation. This is where our front door is going to be. The back elevation would be the opposite side of that then, where the toilet room and the garden are. And then the side elevation, there are 2 sides, but actually this side here, the one that kind of still you can see the garden, this is the side elevation that we're talking about. So no windows on this other side. I'll leave that open. So the first thing we're going to do is create guidelines using this PDF to help us locate the openings. And so as we're going through this, I'm not going to walk through every single door and window with you. I'm going to show you how to do probably 1 door and 1 window, and then kind of let you free on the rest of it, because otherwise we might be here all night. So I'm probably just going to do on the front elevation, I'll do the front door, and then I might do maybe this left side window, because that one has some mullions in it. So we can look at how to do the mullions as well. So we're going to create the guidelines. And then I also put in here that it might be helpful for you. We can change the camera view to an actual elevation view. So far, we've really just been working in this kind of 3D space. But you can have SketchUp go to an actual like parallel projection elevation view. So the way that you do that is you go up at the top to camera, click on camera, and we need to do 2 things. The first one that we'll do is where it says standard views. It should bring up a list, and it gives you kind of those views that you can turn the camera to. So top would be you're looking down at it from the top, so like a plan view. Bottom, you can look at it from the bottom. Maybe you're doing a reflected ceiling plan. And then the front, back, left, and right. And then there's also one for ISO, which would just be like at the 45. So we are going to do the front, assuming that your tiny house is modeled with the front facing front. And so whenever I hit front, it brings me to just looking at the front of my tiny house. And you can see here that we still have a little bit of depth to it. And so that might be okay to get started so that we can find our correct work plane. Since we have several kind of faces of this, I might just start here really quick to get my first guideline started. So if I go back to here and look at the elevation, can I zoom in? Oh yeah, that's not too hard to read. So let's start with our front door. And if we add all this up, you can do them all at once, but like I said, I'll probably just do the door and one window. So it starts on the inside of that little overhang area. So it'll be a total of 2'6" to the right side of that opening, and then the door will be a 3-foot opening. So we're going to start at the inside of that overhang. So I'm going to grab my tape measure tool, and I want to be on this back part of it rather than the front part. So I'm going to grab this edge here. I'll just click once and then bring it out 2.5 feet. So I'll type in 2.5 feet, enter. And that should be the start of where my front door will be. And then from there, I can bring another guideline out 3 foot. So I'll type in 3 foot, enter. And that should be the width of my doorway. And so now that I've kind of got my work plane set up, I'll go to more of a parallel projection. You don't have to, but just kind of showing you what SketchUp can do. So we already put it towards the front view. If I go back up to camera, and right now you probably have perspective checked, I'm actually going to check parallel projection. And now that brings us into more of a two-dimensional view, or like more of that traditional elevation view. We don't see any depth to it. And the reason that I started my guidelines more in that perspective view was because if I were already in this kind of two-dimensional view here, oops, I just messed it up. If I were already in this two-dimensional view and I tried to make one of those grid lines or guidelines, if I just started clicking around, you can see that it didn't quite give me the right work plane that I wanted it to, since there were several faces that were at different projections. So sometimes it's just nicer to start that grid line in more of that perspective view, just so that we don't mess up where our grid lines are. But now that I have one grid line where I want it, I can just start to copy them from there. So it's really up to you if you want to work off that more traditional elevation view, or if this 3D view works perfectly fine for you, totally fine. Whatever's best for you. So I have that 3 foot now, and I need to do the height of the door, which is 7 foot. That's a pretty standard door height. So again, I'll grab my tape measure tool, I'll grab the bottom edge here, and bring it up 7 feet, and hit enter. And that should now be my door opening. So this is pretty similar to what we just looked at with that opening where we went back into that back hallway. We're kind of doing the same process here. So now I need to get, if you created a group for your exterior walls, you're going to want to click into that group by double clicking or right click and hit edit group. And so now that I'm actually on this space, I can grab my pencil and start to outline where those grid lines were. And now I've created a separate surface so that I can use my push-pull tool to push this back, offset limited to 6 inches, so I'll click again, and now we should have an opening looking through. I might have skipped to the next step. Yep, draw lines around your guidelines where the opening will be cut. Make sure you're inside of the group or component of your walls. and then use the push-pull tool to extrude it back 6 inches to cut your walls and create the openings. And then you can delete your guidelines if you want. I guess so in my example here I did the entire front face, but today I'm just going to walk through this one door with you really quick. So this is essentially what your opening cuts will look like. So now we are at step 4. We're going to create a new tag called doors and make it the active tag. And then we'll create a surface in the center of the doorway and make a component out of that and essentially create the door. So let me get out of here really quick so I can delete those guidelines. Just use the eraser tool. And then I'm going to create a new tag. So remember, tags are like your layers. So I'll hit the little plus sign button that's over here under the tags drop down. And remember, if you don't have your default tray open over here, you will go to Window, hover over Default Tray, and this should say Show Tray. So you would just click on that to show it. So default tray, you've got your tags here. Hit the plus sign to create a new tag, and I'll call it doors. And I'm going to click over here on the right side to make it the active tag. You see the little pencil moved, so now I know that that is my active one. So anything that I start to model from this point will be on the doors tag. Now we need to create the actual door panel, or the leaf. So I'm going to start just here in the middle of the doorway. I'll hit the midpoint, and SketchUp should snap to that midpoint. And then I'll just create a rectangle that fills up this opening. So I'll come across to 3 foot and hit that midpoint again. Might need to swivel or orbit up a bit to be able to see the underside, and make sure that your line is straight on that blue axis and bring it up to hit that midpoint again. And then we are orbiting over to this next corner. Make sure we've got a nice straight line along that red axis. Hit the midpoint. And then bring it back down to close. So now you should have a surface, and I'm going to double click that surface to create or to select the surface and its bounding lines. And then I will right click and hit make component. And I think I had a specific name to call this. What did I call it? 3x7 door. So 3x7 door. And hit create. And I should have a component here now. And our next step with that was to extrude this surface back toward the interior of the house by 2 inches so that we can create some thickness for our door panel. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll double click into that component, use my push-pull tool, and start to push it back. You may not be able to see it very well, so if you want to turn off your walls, swivel around to be able to see it, that's fine. Maybe I'll actually go ahead and do that just so that we can all see it. So I'll turn off my exterior walls tag. Now that's a little bit easier to see. So here was my door. I'll double click into it again, push pull, and extrude this back 2 inches, hitting 2, enter. So now that's got some thickness to it. And our next step. Do you have a question?
Yeah, so when you extrude.
So our next step is to offset the edges of your door panel by 2 inches to create the door frames. And here I say it might be easier to turn off your exterior walls like we've been doing, just so that we can see a little bit better. And then once we have that, we're going to remove the bottom portion because, you don't build a door frame along the bottom of a door. So we're just going to remove that bottom portion. So let's do that real quick, otherwise I'll start to forget steps. So we are, so essentially what we're going to do is offset these edges by 2 inches to create a door frame. So I'm going to go back into my component, and I'm actually going to turn the exterior walls back off. And then I'll grab the offset tool and then just click on my door, start to bring those edges out, and then type to enter to give myself 2 inches. And then if I turn off my floor as well, you'll see that it offset the bottom as well, because that's what I told it to do. I told it to offset all the edges. So we just need to create some lines here to extend this bottom line all the way across so that this bottom piece is now separate from the rest of what will be our door frames. And then I'm just going to use the erase tool to get rid of this bottom piece. Because if you think about a door frame, it's only going over the sides and the top. We don't want that bottom piece there. Turn my floor back on. And now we are extruding the door frames, because right now if I turn my exterior walls back on, we can't see it, so I need them to get out past the exterior doors. And so I believe, since I started at the midpoint and our exterior walls are 6 inches deep, I should have to go 3 inches to be flush with the exterior wall, but let's just double check. I use my tape measurement tool to check this out. Yep, that's 3 inches. So I'll turn my walls back off. Using the push-pull tool to grab my door frame surface, I'll start pulling it forward and type in 3, enter. So if I turn my walls back on, I should start to see my door frames coming through. And you'll see how it's kind of flashy. That just means that there are 2 surfaces right on top of each other. So then we got it to the exterior face, so now let's extrude these surfaces out 1 inch past the exterior walls, because a door frame is in front of the wall. It's not flush with the wall, typically, unless you have some fancy door frame. So let's do that real quick. So I'll just grab that same surface again and pull it out 1 more inch and enter. And now I have these door frames that go out past the wall. If if these lines start to bother you, and you know how you can still see the flashiness from right here, you could go out of your door component and turn your door off, and you can just widen this a bit more if you want, since it was the 3 foot. You can edit these and push it back just a little bit more if you want to, if that bothers you. So I'll just push them back an extra inch in each direction. And now if I were to turn my door back on, that gets rid of that line, because we're no longer seeing the exterior walls through our door frame. So we don't have that flashiness anymore. And then I'm just going to do the exact same thing to the other side, because we do have a door frame on the inside as well. So I'll turn off the exterior wall, And if you don't have a surface here anymore, that's okay. We can get it back. All you need to do is trace over one of your lines. So I'll just trace right back over a line that I already made, and that should let SketchUp know that that's a closed surface again. Now I use the push-pull tool, and we did 3 inches to get to the face of the wall, and then we did another extra inch to get 1 inch away from the wall. So I'll just go ahead and pull this a total of 4 inches away. So now whenever I turn my wall back on, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get in there very well. Just turn the exterior walls back on. There we go. It should be 1 inch past that wall. And we also learned if this blue color kind of bothers you, since everything else is white, you just need to reverse the face so that the front side is facing out, essentially. So I will right click on that surface and hit reverse faces, and that brings the white back out. And you can do that to all of these if you want, if that blue color bothers you. We'll eventually assign materials to everything, so then it won't really start to matter. But if you like a nice white model right now, you can go ahead and do that. Okay, so those are kind of the bones of your door. Do we have questions about that? Were you able to follow along okay? Okay. The next step is to add a door handle. And we're going to make it 2 inches wide by 12 inches tall and 3 inches deep. And the center of the handle will be 4 inches inside of the left side of the door panel and 40 inches off the ground. And this will be a component called door handle. Let's go back to SketchUp here. And if you'd like, you can do kind of a component within a component. I think I might do that just because all of my doors are going to have a door handle, so I'll just keep it all together. So I'll double click back into my door here. And the first thing I'm going to do is create that center point. So we said it wanted to be 4 inches off this left side. So I'll go ahead and grab my tape measure tool, grab this left side and bring it out 4 inches. And then I'll grab the bottom here and bring it 40 inches off the bottom. And that should be my center point of my door handle that I'm going to create. So we wanted it 2 inches wide by 12 inches in height. So we can either start right here in the center point and just create that center point from here, or if it's easier for you, you can create more grid lines. I'm just going to copy this one 1 inch to each side of the center. And then I'll grab this one and copy it 6 inches to the top and the bottom. And so this essentially will be where my door handle goes. So I'll click my rectangle tool and just outline that area. And then I'm going to select this surface with the lines. And actually not yet. I'll go ahead and make the door handle first. So I think we wanted to extrude it 3 inches. So I'll type in 3 and hit enter. And then if you want to make it a little bit fancy from here, because obviously this is probably not what a door handle is actually going to look like, you can create a little opening in here. So I might use the same offset tool maybe I'll bring it in 1 inch. And I might bring these lines back. Erase this center one so that I have one surface. And then push this 2 inches back so that I have that opening created there. And now I can select my door handle. I just click and drag to grab it all, right click, and make component. And this will be my door handle. And create. So now I have nested components. Remember, nested means a component within a component or a group within a group. So what this kind of allows me to do, since I've separated my door handle and my door, is I can still copy my door around, but then I could go in and, get rid of this door handle if I want to switch it out for more of like a doorknob later on. I'll just kind of more easily be able to switch those components out. And then I'm just going to grab my eraser tool and drag across these guidelines to get rid of them. And there's my door with my handle. And if you like, you can add any additional details for your door. Maybe you want a little piece of glass in it or some trim pieces, some paneling. It's kind of up to you. If this door was enough for you, you're like, yeah, I think that's about all I can handle, that's fine. Just keep your door at that, but if you'd like to kind of challenge yourself a little bit more, maybe add some detail to it. I think down here in my example, I just left it normal. So that's totally fine if that's what you want to do. Some of you I know like to be a little fancy, so you might create a little fancy door. Okay, so that was our door. And so basically, you'll have other doors around. I think we're just doing, I only, in these elevations, I only have the exterior door locations. There would be 2 more doors inside because we have to get into the bedroom and into the bathroom. Your DWG file, if I just bring all that away and get my DWG file back on here, you should be able to see where those door openings go. They might not be 3 foot wide, but you'll have the door here and the door here, and I think those should be the only 2 interior doors. To be honest, I forgot to put it in the exercise, so if you get to your exterior doors all done and you're like, woof, that was a lot, we can get to the interior doors next week if that's better for you. So let's really just focus on the exterior today. So then the only other exterior door you'll do is the one that's here in the back. If we look at our elevations, it's this one back here. So you'll basically be able to do the same process for that back door. So I'm not going to walk through that one again, but you can make it look the exact same. I think it's just a little bit narrower. So let's move on to the window then. We'll create a new tag called Windows and make it the active tag so that we have our own layer or our own tag for that. Let me turn everything back on except for that DWG file. So we're kind of going to do those same steps, that same process, but now we'll do a window. So I'm going to do this window here to the bottom left. That one is 2 foot off the ground, 1 foot high, and 5'8" wide. In the exercise here, I think I walked through this one, so maybe it'll be beneficial that I'm doing a different one, so that you can see the different ones. But regardless, it's going to be the same process. So earlier in this, I had made all the guidelines, so I just need to go ahead and create my guidelines again for the window. It'll probably be easier for you to do all the guidelines at once. It's up to you. So let's see where I need to put it. It's going to be 1'6" away from the door, and then, as we said, 5'8" by 1 foot. So let's see here. I probably messed myself up by putting the door frame in first, because our opening was originally right here, if you remember. So I'm actually going to do 1'6" from this inside of the door frame, because we had our 3 foot right here, and then the 1'6" would have started from there. So I'm going to grab the guideline. And, I know that this is 2 inches, so maybe I'll just subtract that 2 inches from the 1'6". So then I'll create a guideline that is just 1'4" away. And as you can see, it's not doing our usual where we can just click and it'll bring a line out. And that's actually because there's no line created here, because our door frame just came through and our wall actually goes past into the door frame. So there's actually no line right here that our grid line can grab from. So if you'd like to do it that way, we could just create ourselves a little line here. So not really wanting to grab the intersection for me. So maybe that's not the easiest for me right now. Let's see if it'll do it whenever I'm inside of this component. There we go, now it's grabbing the intersection for me. So I'll just create a quick little line here. And let's see if it'll let me grab that now. There we go. We just needed a line to reference from. So then I'll type 1'4". And you should see that it'll align with the edge of our overhang here. And then I will copy this grid line 5'8" away. And then let's create another grid line from the bottom edge here. And it was 2 foot high. So 2 foot, enter. And then, and then I will copy that 1 foot above that grid line. And so now this should be our opening here. So I'm going to go into my group for my interior walls. I just double clicked on that there. Oh, and I forgot to make my tag. So I'll hit the plus sign for the tag, call it Windows, and make it the active tag. So I'll make the rectangle here in that opening. Use the push-pull tool to go back 6 inches. It's not wanting to give me that offset limit, so that's okay. I can still just type in 6, enter, to create that opening. And I'm just going to erase my grid lines.
What did you type in for the 6 inches?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the depth of the wall there. Okay, so same process. We'll start out with a surface along the midpoints. So I'm back out of my exterior walls group. I'm just back in the main model area. So I'll start at a midpoint and orbit around so that I can see the top here. Grab that midpoint, orbit around, grab the midpoint, and bring it back to the starting point to close. And I'm going to double click that surface to grab the surface and all 4 of its bounding lines, right click, and hit Make Component. And I think I'll just call this 1 by 5/8 window, not wando, a window. And create. And I think we're doing the same 2-inch frame. Yep. We'll do the same 2 inches. You might want to turn off your exterior walls to see better. Extrude them out, so on and so forth. So I'll double click into this component that I just created. And this right here is going to be my glass pane. And so let me turn off my exterior walls to see better. So I'll create the frame by using the offset tool, clicking once and bringing it out, and hit 2 enter for 2 inches. And then I'll grab the push-pull tool and grab my frame. And remember, we did a total of 4 inches on each side before because we were at our midpoint of the wall, and then we need to bring it out 1 inch past those exterior walls. So I'll do 4 inches this way, 4 enter, swivel around, grab this back side, 4 enter. And then if I turn my exterior walls back on, we have our frame that's extruding 1 inch past the walls. So check out this one. Looks good. And again, we can do the same thing if these lines bother you. This is the this line here is the exterior wall coming through. So if you want to go into your exterior walls and push those surfaces down maybe 1 inch or so, or push them away from your frame, it's totally fine to avoid these overlapping planes. So I'm just pushing them 1 inch away. And then, so I've got this part here, but then if you scroll down on Canvas a bit more, I have another PDF here that says some windows may require mullions, and so see this PDF for where we should place mullions. The mullions will be 2 inches wide and equally spaced. So let me open up this guy. And so you'll start to see I've just drawn some simple little lines where we want those mullions to be. So some of them don't have mullions, like this front one here and this back one I didn't put any mullions in, but these ones that are a little bit wider, we're going to need some mullions. So this one is only going to have 1 in the middle. So I'm going to double click in here. And I'm going to find the midpoint. So SketchUp should snap for me. There it is. And I am just going to start to create a 2-inch wide mullion. So I'll go 1 inch to the right, hit 1, enter, bring it up, make sure it's on that blue axis so it's a nice straight line, and bring it to that top edge. And then we'll bring it 2 inches across, and bring it back down. And that should now be its own surface. And I'll just pull that guy up to meet the front of the frame. And let me turn my walls off, swivel back around. Our surface disappeared, but that's okay. I'll just create a line here to hopefully, oh, that one went away. So you might just need to redraw some of your lines if they went away for some reason. And do that little reverse faces trick that we saw. And pull it up to meet the window frame back here so it's nice and flush. And then if you'd like, you can erase these lines to make it look a little more cohesive. So then we should have one mullion right in the center. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just turn this glass piece to actual glass so we can see through it. And so I'll get back here into my window component, and I'm going to grab the paint bucket tool, which is, where is it? Oh, here it is. So it looks like a little paint bucket. That's how you assign materials. The hotkey for it is B, if you like to use your keyboard shortcuts. Got the paint bucket, and it brings up this materials over here for me in my default tray. And you can drop down if you're not already at glass and mirrors. You can drop down, it kind of categorizes the different materials for you. And there should be one called glass and mirrors. I think we already saw how to do this with our bookcase, but just in case you forgot. And you can choose whatever glass you'd like. I personally like the more gray tinted one, but maybe you like the blue one. They've even got one in here that's kind of like a crushed glass. They've got one that's kind of like a sky reflection. Maybe I want that one actually. So I'll just click on it, and then I can use my paint bucket to just click on the surface that I want to paint. And now it's kind of got that little sky reflection going on in it. Maybe I don't like that one. I'll go back to my gray. Just click those, make them glass, and now you should be able to see through to the interior of your tiny house. And that's essentially one door and one window. So you will go through to each of the 3 facades, the front, the back, and this side where you can see the garden. And you'll go through each of those steps. You can switch out your door handle if you want to try a different door handle on the back. Maybe you want some different details on your door in the back. And you will just follow the 2 PDFs for where the mullion should be placed. And again, I put in Canvas, they're all 2 inches wide, and they should all have even spacing. And then you'll also just follow this elevations for finding the dimensions.